Grammy award-winning artists take the stand as soon as tomorrow in this trafficking and racketeering conspiracy trial against hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. We've learned prosecutors plan to call rapper Kid Cudi as soon as tomorrow. He briefly dated Cassy Ventura.
The news broke like a thunderclap across the entertainment industry. Cassy Reynolds, former executive assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, trusted insider and keeper of secrets, had finally spoken out after years of silence. What began as a standard career retrospective interview with journalist Morgan Chen suddenly veered into unexpected territory when Cassy began sharing previously unknown details about her 5 years in Diddy's inner circle. The entertainment world was stunned, confused, and desperate for answers. For half a decade, Cassy Reynolds had been a fixture at Diddy's side, present for album launches, business meetings, and countless private events. As his executive assistant from 2015 to 2020, she had unprecedented access to one of music's most powerful and enigmatic figures. Until now, she had never spoken publicly about her experience. That changed last week when her 3-hour interview sent shockwaves through the industry. Then, suddenly, explosive headlines began appearing across media outlets. Cassy's confession, inside Diddy's empire. Former assistant reveals music mogul's secret methods, and perhaps most provocative, what she witnessed will change how you see Diddy forever. The claims spread like wildfire across platforms where algorithms reward engagement without regard for context or nuance. Concerned fans flooded social media with questions, while industry insiders scrambled to understand the implications of Cassy's revelations. "I couldn't believe what I was hearing," said entertainment reporter Jordan Williams. Cassy was always known as the ultimate professional, discreet, loyal, and completely trusted by Diddy. For her to speak out like this, with such specific details and such calm certainty, it was unprecedented. What makes Cassy's interview so compelling isn't just what she said, it's how she said it. Throughout the 3-hour conversation, she never raises her voice. She never seems angry or vindictive. Instead, there's this eerie calmness as she methodically unpacks 5 years of observations that paint a picture of one of music's most powerful figures that few have seen before. It's the measured tone that makes her account so credible, explained Dr. Elaine Winters, a media studies professor who researches celebrity culture. When someone speaks with such precision and without obvious emotional agenda, we tend to find them more believable. She's not yelling or making wild accusations, she's simply stating what she observed, which makes her revelations all the more impactful. Let's start with perhaps the most chilling moment of the interview, Cassy's description of what she calls the mirror room. "Every major decision happened in what we called the mirror room," Cassy explained during the interview. "It's this space in his Miami house where all 4 walls are mirrors, floor to ceiling, no windows. The first time he took me there, I thought it was just an eccentric design choice. But then I noticed how he used it." When pressed by interviewer Morgan Chen about what she meant, Cassy elaborated, "He would bring artists there to negotiate contracts, business partners for major deals. The room is designed so that no matter where you look, you see reflections upon reflections, including multiple versions of yourself and him. It creates this disorienting effect where you lose track of where you are in the room." "That sounds psychological," Chen observed. "It was absolutely psychological," Cassy confirmed. "He once told me, in this room, people see themselves how I want them to see themselves. I watched countless talented artists sign away rights they shouldn't have, because in that room, their perception was literally controlled by the environment he created. The most disturbing part, he had the temperature control, the lighting, even subtle scents pumped in, all manipulated depending on who was visiting and what he wanted from them." What makes this account so unsettling isn't the existence of a negotiation room. Many executives have specific spaces for closing deals. It's the methodical, almost scientific approach to manipulation that Cassy describes. Throughout the interview, she returns to this theme, the careful crafting of environments to achieve specific outcomes. But perhaps even more disturbing were her revelations about what she calls the rehearsals. People think those viral moments, the grand gestures, the inspirational speeches, the seemingly spontaneous acts of generosity, just happen naturally. They don't. "I've watched him rehearse a spontaneous emotional moment for hours," Cassy revealed. "You mean like practicing a speech?" Chen asked. "No, I mean literally rehearsing emotional reactions," Cassy clarified. "There was this time when an up-and-coming artist was going to play their demo for him. Before they arrived, he practiced different reactions for 2 hours. If the track is good, I'll react like this, and he'd do the surprised face, the head nod, the exact moment he'd interrupt the track to say it was fire. Then, if it's mediocre, I'll do this. And he'd practice looking thoughtful, where he'd stop the track, exactly what constructive feedback he'd give. When Chen suggested this just sounded like preparation, Cassy's response was chilling. The disturbing part was watching him cycle through these rehearsed reactions with people who thought they were getting something authentic. I've seen him use the exact same spontaneous emotional moment with different artists months apart. Same words, same pauses, same impromptu wisdom. These artists are sharing their life's work, their vulnerability, and they're getting a performance in return. Throughout the entertainment industry, there's always been an understanding that public personas are carefully crafted. But Cassy's description goes beyond typical image management into something more calculated. According to her account, even private moments of connection were choreographed experiences. The interview takes an even more troubling turn when Cassy discusses what she refers to as the list. Every major figure in his orbit was on the list, she explained. It categorized people by their utility, their vulnerabilities, and their expiration date. Expiration date? Chen asked. His exact term, Cassy confirmed. It referred to how long he expected someone to be valuable to his empire before they needed to be replaced or recategorized. Artists, executives, even friends, everyone had an expiration date. Some were measured in years, others in months. The most disturbing entries were the ones where he'd noted specific vulnerabilities, addiction issues, family problems, financial troubles, with annotations on how these could be leveraged if necessary. That's cold, Chen remarked. What haunts me is how accurate his predictions were, Cassy continued. I'd see someone listed with an expiration date of March 2018, and like clockwork, by April they'd be out of the inner circle. Sometimes it was because they'd outlived their usefulness naturally, but other times, situations would mysteriously arise that accelerated their departure, often involving the exact vulnerabilities he had documented. If Cassy's account is accurate, it suggests a level of strategic relationship management that borders on Machiavellian. Throughout the interview, she's careful to note that she never witnessed anything explicitly illegal, just a system of influence and control that operated in the shadows of an already shadowy industry. What gives Cassy's interview such weight isn't just the content of her claims, it's the meticulous detail with which she recounts them. She provides dates, locations, and specific conversations that lend credibility to her account. And perhaps most compelling is her explanation for why she stayed in this environment for 5 years. People will ask why I didn't leave sooner, and the honest answer is both simple and complicated, she acknowledged. The simple part is that the job came with undeniable benefits, financial security, access, influence by proximity. The complicated part is that he's created a system where leaving has consequences that extend far beyond just losing a job. What kind of consequences? Chen asked. His network is vast, Cassy explained. I watched what happened to people who left on anything less than perfect terms. Suddenly, job opportunities would dry up, industry connections would go cold. There were whisper campaigns that would start, nothing defamatory, just subtle questions about reliability or discretion. It was never anything you could point to directly, but the pattern was clear. When Chen suggested this sounded like blacklisting, Cassy's response was nuanced. I'm suggesting an influence ecosystem so effective that explicit blacklisting isn't necessary. When someone controls as many relationships as he does, they don't need to make threats. The industry structure itself becomes the enforcement mechanism. Throughout the interview, Cassy walks a careful line, sharing her experiences while avoiding direct accusations that could be considered defamatory. She repeatedly acknowledges that her perspective is subjective and that others in Diddy's orbit might have had completely different experiences. One of the most discussed segments of the interview involves what Cassy calls the narrative room, a physical space dedicated to crafting and controlling public perception. The narrative room was on the second floor of the New York office, she described. It had these massive digital screens covering the walls, each monitoring different aspects of his public image: social media sentiment, upcoming press, content performance metrics, trending topics that could be leveraged or needed to be countered. That just sounds like a modern PR operation, Chen observed. The difference was in how proactive it was, Cassy explained. This wasn't just responding to stories. It was creating them months in advance. I've seen entire public feuds and reconciliations planned out on those boards. scheduled like marketing campaigns. The public thought they were watching authentic moments between artists, but I had seen those exact interactions storyboarded 6 months earlier. When asked if these conflicts were fake, Cassy's response was measured. "I'm saying the line between authentic and manufactured was intentionally blurred. Sometimes real tensions were amplified and timed for maximum publicity. Other times, completely fabricated situations were created because the metrics showed that conflict drives engagement." The disturbing part wasn't that it happened, it was how normalized it had become. There were literally performance bonuses tied to successfully executing these narrative arcs. In the age of social media and 24/7 celebrity coverage, the idea that public narratives are managed isn't shocking. What's unsettling about Cassy's account is the alleged scale and sophistication of these operations, and the blending of real human relationships with strategic brand management. Perhaps the most personally revealing moment of the interview comes when Cassy discusses her own role in this system. "I wasn't just an observer, I was a participant," she admitted. "I coordinated meetings in the mirror room, knowing what it was designed to do. I maintained versions of the list. I sat in narrative room meetings and contributed ideas. That's the hardest part of this to talk about, my own complicity." "Why are you speaking about this now?" Chen asked. "Because the music industry is full of young people who dream of being in rooms I was in, not understanding the cost of admission," Cassy explained. "There's this glamorized idea of what working with powerful figures is like. The reality is that you're often asked to surrender your moral compass one small compromise at a time, until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back." When asked if she worried about professional consequences from the interview, Cassy was philosophical. "Every day since I left, I've waited for the other shoe to drop. That's part of how systems like this maintain themselves, through fear of consequences. At some point, you have to decide that speaking your truth is worth whatever comes next." In the weeks since this interview was released, the response has been polarizing. Some industry insiders have come forward to corroborate elements of Cassy's account, while others have vehemently defended Diddy, describing him as a tough but fair businessman in an industry that demands strategic thinking. Diddy himself has not directly addressed the specific claims, though his representatives released a statement calling the interview a one-sided account that mischaracterizes standard industry practices and business strategies as something nefarious. What makes Cassy's interview so compelling and so haunting isn't any single revelation. It's the cumulative picture she paints of how power operates in the shadows of the entertainment world. It's a glimpse behind the curtain of celebrity culture that forces us to question how much of what we consume as authentic is carefully constructed. The most valuable currency in this industry isn't money, it's perception, Cassy observed near the end of the interview. When someone controls how others perceive you, they control your reality. That's the real power, and that's what should concern us all. As the dust settles on this explosive interview, the entertainment industry finds itself in a moment of uncomfortable reflection. Artists are questioning their contracts and relationships, executives are examining their own practices, and audiences are looking at celebrity culture with newly skeptical eyes. For Cassy Reynolds, the future remains uncertain. Some predict she'll face professional ostracism for breaking the code of silence that surrounds powerful figures. Others suggest her candor and composure will lead to new opportunities in an industry increasingly focused on authenticity and transparency. "I don't regret speaking out," she said in a brief follow-up statement. "What I regret is not doing it sooner. If my experience helps even one person navigate this industry with their eyes open and their values intact, then whatever comes next will have been worth it." As for Diddy, the impact of these revelations on his empire remains to be seen. The music mogul has weathered controversies before, but Cassy's methodical, detailed account presents a unique challenge. Not because it alleges criminal behavior, but because it pulls back the curtain on the carefully constructed image that has been central to his success. Power doesn't just corrupt, Cassy reflected in the final moments of the interview. It creates alternate realities. For 5 years, I lived in his reality. Now I'm creating my own, one where truth matters more than access, where authenticity isn't something you rehearse, and where success isn't measured by how many people you can influence, but by how many people you can genuinely connect with. For a woman who spent years orchestrating others' perceptions, Cassy Reynolds has now created her own narrative. one that will likely reverberate through the entertainment industry for years to come. Whether viewed as a whistleblower or a disgruntled former employee, her chilling confession has forever changed how many will view not just Diddy, but the entire ecosystem of celebrity culture. The most haunting part of my experience wasn't any specific incident, she concluded. It was watching how easily reality could be manufactured, how thoroughly perception could be controlled, and how willingly we all participated in maintaining the illusion. That's what will haunt you if you let it. Not just what happened in those rooms, but the knowledge that there are countless other rooms just like them, shaping what you believe is real every single day. In an industry built on image and illusion, Cassy Reynolds' greatest disruption may be simply this. She told the truth as she lived it, consequences be damned. And in doing so, she's forced us all to question not just what we know about Diddy, but what we think we know about the entire world of entertainment we consume so hungrily. The Mirror Room, it seems, extends far beyond one mansion in Miami. It encompasses our entire celebrity culture, and Cassy Reynolds has just given us a new way to see our own reflection in it.